More about the old soul. At the end of a full life comes the time of old age. Much that can be said about an old soul is what would be said about an old person. Usually old people have traveled to many places and done many things. They are a storehouse of wisdom and understanding because of this range of experience. But in spite of their competence, they do not usually accomplish very much. Because of the age of the body, there is often a tiredness about them that prevents much expenditure of effort. They are quieter than younger people, have a more relaxed lifestyle, and are more subdued in their manner of expression. They have mellowed out considerably compared to their younger days. The energy and excitement of youth is mostly gone. It is very similar to old souls. They have access through the subconscious to a great wealth of experience. Often they become teachers to pass this knowledge and wisdom on, but to a limited number of students, there is little desire or effort to release their understanding into the world in general. In fact, in the last levels, some old souls can be so world-weary that they are ready to just lay down and die. Like a person in the last decade of life, the elder soul is winding down, so to speak, or, in retirement, preparing for death, settling the estate and tying up loose ends. In terms of the theory of reincarnation, the old soul is clearing the way for the final break with the physical plane. Not unlike the infant soul, but for different reasons, it is rare for an old soul to make a great contribution to society or culture. The reason for this is that they have largely given up on the world. It just does not seem worth the trouble to spend a lot of energy for things that do not last. Material things just decay anyway, so why invest in that? The other problem is that they are advanced in their perceptions to such an extent that the genius of their contributions would go unappreciated by the great majority of people. The establishment. Old souls know this and do not even try to get them to see it. Younger souls, who largely control the course of society, cannot understand old souls and regard them and their notions as eccentric. Old souls are perceived to be far out, or cranks, if they do make themselves noticed. Younger souls are often too busy to stop and really listen to the wisdom of old souls anyway. For these reasons, old souls are rarely the movers and shakers of culture. As it is with many young people and old people, the situation is that the younger are out doing their thing and do not have time to listen to the old folks anyway. So the old folks do not even try to communicate. Old souls often have difficulty with self-esteem because their perceptions and values are not shared by the rest of society. The old soul is often a loner. In their social lives, old souls are often loners. They go their own way, caring little for societal norms. They are a rare breed, comprising about 11% of the population. On the fringes of society, they obey the rules of their culture only as required to get by without causing trouble. They have very little attachment to encounters of a casual nature, such as co-workers and neighbors. Even their sense of connection to blood relatives is not very strong. They generally shun heavy entanglements with other people. When they do get involved, it is because there is a strong spiritual bond. By this is meant that either there is a karmic attachment, past life association, or what Michael calls an agreement, a contract made between lifetimes to conduct a relationship. A specific case mentioned by Michael is that old souls seek to be united with the other fragments of their entity. When old souls do seek companionship, they often do so in metaphysical groups. Astrology and tarot classes, psychic endeavors, and so on. Here they will be most likely to meet those with whom they have spiritual connections. They seek out the few others who are like themselves and form networks of people with similar interests. This is not usually for the purpose of business advancements like young souls, or for psychological comfort like mature souls, but just to share being with other old souls. When old souls party, they usually sit around and just talk. In dating situations, they do not need to go anywhere, like to a movie, or do anything, like play games, as a means to developing social intimacy. If the basis for psychological intimacy is not quickly apparent to the old soul, he will not put himself through much trouble to develop it. It is difficult for old souls to weld unions with people that they have not been together with in numerous past lifetimes. Older souls are individualistic. Old souls are individualistic, they believe that people should basically do whatever they want to do, so long as it doesn't hurt anyone else. The motto of the old soul is, "You do what you want, and I'll do what I want." They rarely campaign for anything. They do not want to change the world, they just let it be. You might say they have the ultimate, laissez-faire, leave it alone, attitude, let nature take its course and don't interfere with the system. Live and let live is another appropriate motto for the older soul. They rarely organize into social clubs which have a hierarchical structure of leaders and followers or join organizations which promote some cause. Rather, they form loose networks of friends and associates having common interests. Old souls are operating in a dimension of personality different from the previous ages, the infant, baby, young, and mature soul ages. This puts them in a class by themselves since the transcendental and infinite souls only rarely manifest on the physical plane according to Michael. Explained in the following section. And indeed, the old soul is likely to sense his differentness. He may even think perhaps he does not belong on this planet. Old souls make up from 10 to 15% of the population. An old soul contains some of each of the overleaf traits in his personality. Like a person with the acceptance goal, the elder soul is very tolerant of the differences in others and seeks to unify them. Like a person in the power mode, they are confident and assured of their abilities. Like a person in the selfishness feature, they are hedonistic in their desire to do what they want. Like sages, they express wisdom to others. Like idealists, they perceive the unity and beauty in the world. Like people in the intellectual center, they respond to situations by including them in their philosophical scheme. The older soul is in the process of removing himself from entanglement with the usual affairs of life. He does not have a strong sense of attachment or kinship with the world such as is possessed by younger souls. He wants to purge and purify himself of materialistic connections. His primary motivation becomes the pursuit of some specific life task, or perhaps spiritual refinement. Like the baby soul, it is unusual for old souls to pursue a career as such. That is, he may have a long-term occupation, but it is not his main interest in life. Most often a job is taken which does not overly tax or challenge the old soul. This leaves him with enough spare energy to pursue his real purposes, such as resolving karmic entanglements and pursuing truth and wisdom. The old soul has few psychological problems. Old souls have very few psychological problems to deal with. Presumably, these have been worked through in previous lifetimes. Their subconscious access to depths of experience means that there is very little they do not understand about what is going on, both out in the world and within themselves. But old souls do have one significant problem. And that is that they are subject to psychological depression. All the soul ages can be, to some extent, but especially the oldest soul. The reason for this is that, to them, life seems heavy and boring, life is a drag. They perceive that it is all a game, a contrived situation, and they no longer want to play the game. They feel like they have seen it all, so what is there left to live for? The material pursuits of young souls seem quite futile to them, so what is there to get interested in? Even the mature soul's excitement about newfound truth seems passé to old souls. This ennui can severely limit an old soul's happiness and well-being, and be a source of misunderstanding for younger souls who are enjoying life. Whether he understands it consciously or not in terms of reincarnation, the older soul simply wants to graduate from the physical plane and go on to new and better things in the higher planes, but most old souls do come around to the understanding of reincarnation at some time in their lives, even in countries where this is not taught as a dogma. It is possible for a person at any age and level to have an appreciation of this metaphysical tenet, but to most old souls it seems intuitively obvious. This is one of the perceptions that is inherent by reason of the depth of contact with the subconscious present in the old soul. Older souls are easy to be around. Old souls are typically easy for other people to get along with. They are usually agreeable associates because they know how to be gracious. The worst that can be said about old souls is that they are often detached and aloof, perhaps even uninvolved. Younger souls do not understand this, although they may admire the fact that an older soul can remain so cool in situations that younger souls find upsetting. There is not much in an old soul that can offend a younger soul, though there is much that can be misunderstood by him. To some, it may seem that old souls do not care. It is more accurate to say that they are non-attached. They do not make much investment in what is going on around them and do not have strong expectations for any particular outcome. Whatever will be, so why fight reality? Old souls inherently perceive the broader perspective. They see that the world rolls on, day after day, year after year, millennium after millennium, with the same basic stories being told time after time with minor variations. Old souls know the big lesson of the whole maturation cycle, and that is non-judgmental acceptance of anything and everything. What little they cannot abide, old souls simply avoid. Rarely do they seek to change things. Old souls tend to follow the course of greatest efficiency. They seem to glide effortlessly through life. They go with the flow, and they follow the path of least resistance. Younger souls regard this as sheer laziness, lack of drive and willpower. This trait has its advantages and disadvantages. The good thing is that they are graceful and gracious when it comes to dealing with other people. The disadvantage is that they may lack the initiative to do what could be done. They often come up with great and innovative ideas because of their advanced and efficient perceptions, but they lack the energy to bring them to completion. It is not intended that the above comments be used by old souls as excuses for laziness and indifference. Once an elder soul realizes the cause of his condition, he can then take steps to mitigate it or direct it wisely. He need not pursue the goals of younger souls or share their value systems, but he can take his legitimate place as a valuable member of society if he wants to. As with senior citizens, just because the old soul is retired does not mean he is worthless and powerless. Indeed, an old soul can bring considerable wisdom and competence to bear in fulfilling a significant life task. Older souls are inherently ethical. Because of their advanced perceptions, old souls are inherently ethical in behavior, feeling, and thought. They do not have to be taught right and wrong by parents or society. There is some socializing to be done when they are children, of course, but the programming for decency, honesty, and integrity is inborn. It is as if they are grown up even when they are children. They always feel like they are older than their chronological age. They are conscientious and responsible. They are not usually jealous, envious, possessive, or pushy, any one of a number of things which involve attachment to other people. When old souls are dealing with these ethical issues, it is with their subtle aspects. They are gentle toward the faults of others. The harsh perceptions often present in younger souls are absent here. They rarely perceive actions as being truly evil. Rather, they regard things that cause suffering as foolish and primitive, and they seek to cure the cause of the problem by imparting mature knowledge and understanding. Old souls try to maintain neutrality in time of war. It is part of their non-attachment. There are certain nations listed by Michael as being primarily populated by old souls, such as Switzerland, Holland, and Iceland, who value their independence and neutrality in political issues. Switzerland plays host to the young soul nations at the Geneva peace talks but does not get involved in their young soul do-it-my-way games. If old souls care anything for politics, it is that they are pacifists. Most often they are simply apolitical, they do not get involved with it at all. Old souls see the big picture. Old souls have a universal perspective. They are not so much involved in family issues like baby souls, or tribal issues like infant souls, or national issues like young souls, or global issues like mature souls. Old souls see the cosmic picture. Old souls see themselves and others as parts of a larger system. They see how all parts of the system relate to each other rather than getting lost in the petty details. The depth of wisdom of old souls shows in their eyes. They have a direct, penetrating stare, it looks right through you, seeming to know. Profound issues are their concern, not the trivial. In their efficiency, they want to get right to the heart of the matter and skip all the superficialities. Old souls are casual and easygoing about everything. Nothing is any big deal to them. Almost never are they outrageous or outlandish. They are rarely concerned with outward appearances, external image or formal trappings. In extreme cases, they can even appear sloppy in clothes or habitat. Rarely are they overly concerned with what other people think. Old souls pursue education with the same casual attitude as they do everything else in life. Grades are of very little value to them. The learning itself isn't all that important unless it furthers a specific life task. Old souls tend to cut out the material pursuits that occupy so much of the time and energy of younger souls, and concentrate what little energy they have on spiritual integrity. By this is meant the need to understand the truth and the reason for things. Old souls rarely participate in organized religion. They are often drawn rather to metaphysics, mysticism, philosophy, and the occult in their quest for understanding. It is difficult for them to synthesize their physical with their spiritual selves. They often seek unorthodox and holistic medicine rather than going to the medical establishment. Old souls are not mainstream. In some ways, it can be said that old souls are in the most difficult age. In the first place, they do not fit in with the culture, so they are often thought bizarre. They are definitely out of the mainstream of society and care little for its formal institutions. In the second place, they are often too world-weary to do what needs to be done to solve their own problems, let alone anyone else's. Since they tend to follow the path of least resistance, unless they feel internal and external forces pushing them, they don't go anywhere or do anything. No matter how much they might need it for building character, they will only tolerate just a certain amount of stress in any given situation. Then they will get depressed and just chuck it all and move on. In the third place, there is a certain arrogance in old souls in that they often feel they cannot learn from younger souls. They are aware of their maturity, even if only subliminally, and regard younger souls as foolish. This is not truly wise. There is always much to learn, even from one's juniors. In the fourth place, there is very little left that old souls want to experience in life. They feel like they have done it all, so why bother to do more? There is nothing new under the sun, is another good motto for the old soul. Even sex is not highly prized by the older soul. He is usually competent therein, but his lack of interest for it, and the lack of passion in it, can be disconcerting to younger souls who still prize sex highly. Old souls are often hedonistic and sensual, however, and can have a bawdy sense of humor. Old souls are often androgynous, having balanced masculine and feminine characteristics, and occasionally bisexuality is a part of their lifestyle. Gender identification is often weak in this age because of subconscious contact with the whole psyche, which includes both masculine and feminine characteristics. What the old soul seeks in romantic relationships is a soul mate, someone to whom he relates on a soul level. This might be someone else with whom he has spent many lifetimes or another soul in his own entity. The drive for this is so strong that it could be described as a compulsion. Like an old person, the old soul is in the process of withdrawing from the physical plane. He does not want to make an investment in something that he regards as ephemeral and transitory. The motivation now is for spiritual purity. Most of the monads which it is established for the old soul to complete have to do with being, rather than doing, like the young soul, or feeling, like the mature soul. The old soul just is. He simply experiences life as it passes through his consciousness. He is not unlike an infant soul in that he often leads a simple life. He does not want to complicate it with intense relationship entanglements and severe challenges. In a reincarnational sense, old souls are paying off final karma. And they do not want to incur any more, so they play it safe by remaining apart from the heavy drama that entertains younger souls. Being an old soul is often considered hallowed ground for the spiritually minded, since this is the incarnational stage that encompasses all the accumulated wisdom collected over an arduous series of past life experiences. Thus, it is assumed an old soul is brimming with spiritual knowledge and wisdom. In the eyes of the Tao, or God, however, old souls are not any better than the other soul ages. Each soul age looks at life through a perspective that's appropriate for the lessons needed to be learned at that stage of development. To say an old soul is wise beyond their years or more self-aware than others is missing the point. To quote Michael Channeling, the degree to which you are spiritually awake denotes your level of consciousness, not your soul age. Perhaps a more apt description is that old souls have greater potential for self-awareness, since their philosophical frame of reference is to see the broader, bigger picture in life. Unlike mature souls who are often subjective and embattled with the emotional pandemonium of their internal experiences, the old soul merges their inner nature with the outer, lending their philosophical perspective to the world around them. This nudges many old souls to embark on a spiritual path. Seeking higher levels of consciousness, however, is choice-driven, and not all older souls will, or are required to, walk this path. Old souls are also susceptible to the deleterious effects of the chief features and the positive and negative poles, which may camouflage their true nature. Presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, an early-level old soul, is a shining example of the vision an old soul can bring to society. But there is often a lack of neutrality about the old soul in some spiritual communities, with an unrealistic trend that deifies this soul age, placing it in a hierarchy above the rest. That's counterproductive and not an accurate reflection of reality. The internet has heavily romanticized and repackaged the old soul into a false mythology. Older is not better. Compared to the other soul ages, the old soul may receive more light from essence, similar to the progression of lunar phases, but the variables of choice still govern how that light is received. In some cases, a young soul can be more self-aware than an older soul. It depends on the interests and pursuits of the individual. How old souls make a difference in a young soul world. In the channeling below, the ripple effect created by others is discussed. We all know that just about everyone we encounter has something to teach us. If it's not in the didactic sense, it's in stirring a more profound realization about ourselves, perhaps something we need to acknowledge and work on. There are so many things to learn about. One aspect of old soul disease is to react to life too passively and merely go wherever it leads us. That can be a useful technique temporarily, perhaps in an objective Buddhist sense, but it falls apart if we only react to life and never start our own ripples in the pond. Young souls are great at starting ripples. Things go awry, however, when they become overly attached to an outcome or harshly collide with the desired outcomes of others. It's always about seeking the proper balance in these things, not too passive, not too aggressive, but focused on finding the middle way. The following channeling elucidates this neutral approach. Most old souls quickly realize upon reaching adulthood that if they are to survive in what seems like a highly competitive world, they will need to lower their expectations and recalibrate their value system. Many parts of your current society demand conformity, and those that stray outside the lines in the adult coloring book often find themselves severely penalized. Souls with the true entrepreneurial spirit to think outside the box, to coin a popular phrase, may become one of the game changers, but the majority of souls play the societal game with caution and little risk-taking. And that is perfectly understandable. To lose at the game of life, as it currently plays out, is catastrophic. This world arena, as you may surmise, is not easy for the old soul. Old souls don't mind playing by the rules, but the daily grind of attaining achievement and success does not hold as much appeal for them. Their heart is just not in it. The question, then, of how the old soul can make a difference in a young soul world is not as easily answered for this segment of the population, which barely represents 12%. Overall, old souls make a difference when they model an example of how to be in the world, either on their own terms or the terms set by the society they live in. To make a difference, then, that is one that draws attention and ushers in change, the old soul needs to leverage the resources of a larger group that share a similar vision. This can be off-putting to old souls who prefer to be loners rather than joiners. They rarely possess the legions of followers necessary to rally the cry around a particular cause or social issue. There have been exceptions, however. As alluded to earlier, a charismatic politician like Bernie Sanders is a notable example of an old soul that used a network of followers to make an impact on the greater public. On a much smaller scale, the solitary old soul makes a difference by being a model of higher consciousness to every soul encountered. Old souls set this example through the way they interact with others at work, at shopping malls, at grocery stores, behind the wheels of cars, and in other situations where the consciousness of the old soul shines through. Never underestimate the impact a single person can have in the world, even if the effect is minimal and only involves 100 people throughout a lifetime. Old soul consciousness can have a ripple effect that influences those people into modeling their own examples for hundreds more. Through the process of exponential growth, a highly conscious soul, even one living in a rural area, can, through the long-term impact of the ripples they cause, make a difference in thousands of lives. Little things matter. while jet-setters may crisscross the world in private planes and negotiate deals that earn millions of dollars for greedy overachievers, some old souls are quietly making significant changes in the world, one person at a time. It all depends on your perspective. Are you an old soul? Old soul test. Are you wondering what does it mean to be an old soul? Take our old soul test and discover if your soul age is either infant, baby, young, mature, or old soul. Remember, one soul age is not better than another. They are just different perspectives on life and they all bring important learning experiences. Click the button below to take the old soul quiz. Have fun. What is an old soul? An old soul definition: the old soul has expanded their self-awareness to a level where the drama and materialistic pursuits in the world may no longer interest them. The shackles of the 9-to-5 grind is a prison sentence and they'd rather create a means of employment that reflects personal values and the freedom to explore life with less abeyance to punching in a time clock. Old souls do not possess a burning desire to make a major impact on the world and are tired of playing the material game. For that reason alone they are often deemed eccentrics by the rest of society, innately philosophical and prone to teach by example. The old soul provides wise tutelage to younger souls in need of wisdom and guidance. Generally relaxed and unruffled by the drama of life, old souls demonstrate how to be free of the programming of society and how to live more squarely in the present moment. A walking contradiction at times, the old soul both embraces and rejects life. As they pull away from the trappings of the world, they may lead a life of abandonment that can leave them feeling utterly alone. Such choices are not always intentional, but their strong desire for self-reflection and solitude can remove them from the daily doings of the world, and the old soul is more interested in being rather than doing. The nature of the perceptions in the old soul is seeing the greater whole. Most old souls' monads, experiential units, have to do with being. We remind you that in terms of evolution of the essence, the old soul cycle is the most demanding of all, since memory of all the past lives, its debts and payments, as well as the experience of the past lives, is within the conscious grasp of all those in this cycle. Soul age is not hierarchical. The old soul is one of 5 soul age stages experienced over a reincarnational cycle. Each soul age represents unique perceptions and corresponding value systems. Infant souls learn about survival, baby souls learn about structure and the rules of civilization, young souls learn about achievement and being all they can be, mature souls learn about relationships and their emotional worlds. Old souls learn about context and their connection to a greater whole. What needs to be understood is that the values of the old soul are not better or worse than any other soul age. Each evolutionary stage is of equal value and is an indispensable part of the reincarnational journey. A soul age cannot progress without the lessons that came before. Each stage builds on the other, old soul characteristics. In general, the old soul will seem relaxed and laid back, with an amusingly bedraggled appearance that may reveal wrinkles in their clothes and a softly rumpled look. They can dress as professionals when required, but the gamut of their sartorial expressions are rarely pretentious and border on the modestly disheveled. Old soul eyes. Older souls are unafraid to make strong eye contact, not as a strange power gesture but from a genuine interest. Wisdom is reflected there. Being in the present moment, their minds don't wander as much when they speak to you, such as fretting over quarrels at work or unpaid bills. In short, they see you. Relationships. The old soul can be detached in relationships and not as prone to the emotional upheavals that may occur with younger souled couples. Physical appearance is of less importance and the focus is more about what's inside a person, with a healthy respect for any differences and personal idiosyncrasies. Relationships are often long-lasting and loving, and there may be a desire for more sensuality than sex. Older souls typically have a casual outlook about relationships that can frustrate mature souls who want the interaction to feel more serious. In fact, the quest to find a soulmate is more of a mature soul convention, who are keenly interested in creating right relationships. See mature/old comparisons. The old soul typically prefers comfortable relationships. That said, with relationship lessons under their belt, the old soul has the capacity to love with a more compassionate and loving heart than other soul ages, work and leisure. The older soul is also a creature of leisure. They may even seem lazy on the surface, although they can work very hard if the task is meaningful, and unlike the other soul ages, they can have fun working. Old souls are also prone to dabble in a multitude of hobbies, perfecting a skill or talent and then tossing it aside in favor of something else. They are often not interested in finishing their study, they just wanted to resurrect a latent talent from a past life to see if they could do it again. Old soul psychology values. Being philosophically inclined, the old soul values good conversation and deep thoughts. Their views may seem out of step with society and they don't mind. They take personal responsibility for their place in the world and foster an attitude of you go your way and I'll go mine. The old soul has also learned not to resist life, accepting the things that cannot be changed and skillfully adapting to the many forks in the road. Although not always religious, the old soul may pursue spiritual development with a special interest in teaching others on the path. Old souls like to teach by example. They are frequently drawn to nature, the arts, and are often multi-talented. They are not as interested in changing the world as the mature soul, old soul levels. In her book, Varda Hasselmann describes the 7 soul age levels of the old soul as follows: Level 1, act against conventional morals from inner conviction. Level 2, honestly admire yourself, dispense with the admiration of others. Level 3, combine precise introspection with active results. Level 4, unite your well-being with the welfare of the community. Level 5, follow a path unwaveringly without knowing where it leads. Level 6, impress by being, not by doing. Level 7, receive without giving, give without receiving. Signs of an old soul. Key points: old souls are philosophically oriented and strive to see the bigger picture. Their motto is live and let live. They are generally compassionate and kind but should guard against a streak of arrogance. They believe there is more to life than money and the relentless pursuit of material possessions. Old souls are often considered eccentrics when compared to the rest of society. With so many lifetimes under their belt, they possess many gifts and talents. They can seem relaxed and unassuming. Even in a crisis, the older soul is mostly detached from the drama of life and prefers to do their own thing. Other famous old souls: Marcus Aurelius, J.S. Bach, Brandon Bayes, Madame Blavatsky, Jeff Bridges, Deepak Chopra, Leonardo da Vinci, Placido Domingo, Jerry Garcia, Paul Gauguin, George Gershwin, Scarlett Johansson, Carl Jung, Tommy Lee Jones, Danny Kaye, Jack Kerouac, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Herman Melville, Laurence Olivier, Stephen Sondheim, John Steinbeck, Marianne Williamson. Old soul love. To begin, let us state up front that all souls have the capacity to love. Love is not a precious commodity that's only available to the highest bidder or someone with the secret password. Love is as free as the air you breathe and is not on a higher pedestal that's beyond the reach of souls with less life experience. Be cautious of idealistic notions that say otherwise. That said, without the normal fear-based mechanisms that negatively distort its expression or enslave that expression with limiting conditions, the old soul is perhaps better equipped to embrace love. Unconditional love, in fact, is a primary lesson for the old soul, where love is seen from a 30,000-foot view, so to speak. The old soul thus experiences love through a wide-angle lens and is more concerned with love that encompasses the bigger picture, rather than love that's exclusively focused on the finer details, such as mature soul relationships that intensely bridge the inner worlds of two people. For the older soul, love is less conditional because it is less dependent on a single one-to-one connection. That is not to say their relationships are not monogamous. They are for the most part and can be long-lasting. Old soul love is more open and freely shared, although not necessarily in a sexual way, and endows the soul with the capacity to love people deeply without emotional conditions. This is a natural state of love, an unfettered expression possible in many souls but rarely explored. The ability for old souls to love so freely, however, often draws suspicion from others regarding the purity of their motives. This can cause the older soul to withdraw from their natural state, resulting in confusion and depression. Depression and the old soul are, in fact, frequent bedfellows. All old souls carry deep memories of past connections and associations, both on the physical and the astral. This may not be clearly understood on a conscious level, but it is felt and resonates as an inexplicable longing and loss for what once was. This creates melancholy in some old souls, who find their hearts aching for these past connections. For that reason, old souls may seem haunted by memories of love that cannot be associated with anything real in the current lifetime. To the older soul, it feels like a longing that gnaws at the stomach and aches for things long past and frustratingly unreachable. Depression is best remedied by focusing on the present moment, with a concerted focus on what is. After all, a true love shared between another is never lost, only stored away, like seasonal clothing. As biblical scriptures once noted, for everything there is a season. And the old soul has known many seasons. On the old soul finding love. For the older soul, finding love has evolved beyond the glamorized imagery often depicted in romance novels and on magazine covers. Old souls are not as concerned with the thrill of romance and more satisfied with comfortable, less dramatic relationships that nurture and lend support to the daily demands of life. This doesn't mean the relationships are strictly utilitarian and without passion. Old souls can be ardently passionate about love, but their expression is less about the fireworks and more about rekindling prior connections that have withstood the test of time. The old soul often seeks what is most comfortable and true. This may present certain obstacles when so many souls once close to the elder soul have cycled off and concluded their reincarnations on the planet. The old soul's tribe, its pool of viable candidates, so to speak, has been depleted. Another potential obstacle is the old soul's sometimes unsociable need for solitude. Relationships of a romantic nature are not always what the older soul seeks. This is not true for every old soul, of course, but the old soul that finds themselves sitting on the fence when it comes to relationships should keep this in mind. The old soul. A comprehensive guide to old souls. Being an old soul represents the final stage in the reincarnational journey that consists of 5 soul ages in total: infant, baby, young, mature and old. The old soul often conveys a feeling of looking back at what has been accomplished and embracing the whole of life. To quote the original Michael Teachings transcripts, the old soul perceives itself as a part of something greater that includes itself, with the histrionics of the relationship-oriented mature soul stage mostly behind them. Old souls are now ready to tackle a more panoramic perspective of the world that sees the bigger picture and the greater truth. In short, they are going with the flow. Curious about your own soul age? Take our test. How old is your soul? The old soul, everything you need to know. Old soul characteristics: famous old souls in love, old soul test, old souls in a young soul world, romanticizing the old soul.